Hey guys, this is Spartan King again, and this is part 2 of Teach Me How to Yugi. And so I'm going to go over the game mat layout and the field as it's referred to in Yu-Gi-Oh! Just the whole layout, where the cards go, where they're placed, how they're placed. Won't get as much into the game mechanics nearly as much this time, but I just wanted to get a feel of when you're playing, when you're setting this board up, exactly where you're supposed to be putting these cards and how you're putting them and where it goes. So let's just go ahead and jump into it.
This is what my class will be. This! Learn with me! Let's teach each other!
Yay, learning!
So number one you got here is the main monster zone. The bread and butter of the game, the idea, the whole point here is the main monster zone. What I find ironic is that if you even look at this layout, this game mat here, there is no way to place that card in that position. That face down, up and down like that is not even an option, which is funny. The only three options that you have to place a card, a monster, is you can do face up attack, you can do face down defense, which when you place the card you'll look down face down. I'll show you that in a second here. And then you can have it in face up defense, and that's usually only shifted after you've summoned it. So realistically, when you're placing it from your hand, unless you have some capacity to do so, you can only really place your card in face up attack or in face down defense. So right now I've got a B-Buster Drake Dragon here that can be placed in these zones. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 as your options. This over here is going to be your graveyard, and this over here is going to be your banish zone. So right now I got these positions here. So right now I can place my dragon, you'll see as the option. I either have the opportunity to summon him, which would be face up, or in this case, I have the option to summon it, or I can set it in face down defense. And you see when you set the monster in face down defense, you're going in this, where you have it horizontal here, and it's face down. So the second thing I have here, number 2, is the spell trap and pendulum zones.
R&B mention who? I hate you. Hate, 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 hate. Double hate.
Loathe entirely.
The pendulum zones are these things over here. You'll see they're a little unique situation that was brought into the game only a couple of years ago, where they added in a dynamic that said, look, what we'll do is we'll give you an option. You can have monsters that are not only monsters but also are spell cards, and they look a little bit different. They look like this. You can see here how they have both the top half of the card is a monster zone, but then it transitions and is also an option as a spell card, and that's what the pendulum monsters are for. We could talk about the mechanic of that, but that's where those are being placed. Otherwise, this is just known as a spell and trap zone. Don't worry about these being pendulum monsters. In fact, if you are just starting Yu-Gi-Oh, you probably want to steer clear of pendulum monsters for a minute, just so you can get the game mechanics down. But this is actually a spell trap card zone as well. It just has it designated here. Most of them don't even have this designation. They just have the same thing, spell and trap card zone, so you all know. Let me skip over the third. I'm going to fourth deck. Fourth is the deck itself. That's where your main deck is going to be held. And then once you've used up your cards, you use to number 3 is the graveyard. Once I've utilized my cards, so this obviously is the main deck here. Once I've utilized my cards, this is the graveyard. You will see that once I use them up, they go into the graveyard. So in this case, I'll use my spell card to activate my terraforming. Play it here. It goes from here to the graveyard once it's been used up. So that's the idea, is this is utilized graveyard. So there is another category over here that is not in the official zones. If you'll notice here on the list here, it's not even listed. It's the banished zone, or the removed from play category. Some cards removed from play. The card, and before there was a lot of cards that could bring cards back from the removed from play code. That was more or less the way to banish the card from the game. I mean, Chaos Sorcerer, which was one of my favorite cards at the time, would just get rid of the card altogether. It wasn't going to the graveyard. It couldn't be special summoned back from the graveyard. It was removed from play into this category called the banished or the removed from play. Some people place them up here sideways as well. I just always set them to the side. The other category you have is the field zone. And this is a type of spell card. It's specifically unique. It does not go in this category like a continuous spell card. It will go over here in the field spell zone, and it just utilizes a a unique situation where it covers the whole basis of all of your monsters or whatever ruling it has. And I'll display it easily in the ABC Dragon deck here. So you'll notice here this is Union Hanger. When I play Union Hanger, you can kind of see a little bit here. I'll probably blow up a picture on this while I'm doing this. But you see up here that it has a star-shaped kind of thing next to the spell card. I'm talking about the different types of spell cards, but this field spell, once you activate it, it does not go down here like the others. It will go over to the field spell zone just like this. Next category we talk about is the extra deck. Again, this is the 15 cards, and again, you cannot have more than 15 cards. Even though we've been lumping more and more cards into this extra deck, we still haven't expanded that beyond 15 cards. Konami, you got to do that. And so here's the 15 cards. So once you've played your card from here, you will go and activate it from here to your extra monster zone. And finally, again, extra monster zone number 7. This is where you put your monsters that are summoned to the field by these special extra deck monster summoning effects. Link monsters, fusion monsters, synchro monsters. Now, here is a thing that if you are just jumping into Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a bit unique, is different from the rest of them. There used to be that you could extra deck summon from here to your main monster zones as many as you wanted to. You could have a synchro and a fusion and an XYZ and a synchro, and you could just run the field like this. Konami tried to slow the game down, which is almost comical at this point.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
Because they introduced this idea of a link summon, which is up here in the extra monster zone. Extra monster zone is starting with a link monster or any extra deck monster you want to bring out here. But the problem is that if you're not using a link monster here, you are limiting yourself to one at a time. What I mean by that is if you summon from the extra deck an extra monster zone here, your synchro monster or your XYZ monster, whatever it is, you cannot utilize that synchro summon or another. You cannot do another synchro summon. You cannot do another fusion summon. You can't do another XYZ summon beyond that one. The only exception to this, and why they became popular right now, is the link monsters. And I'll show you exactly what I mean by this. So when you see here that I've done these 2 3-star monsters on the field. And so my option right now is I can either choose to link summon a monster or I can special summon a monster. But I want to show you here is if I special summon Dante by selecting these two and special summon Dante here, okay, he is limited now. I can no longer, because he is up here, I can no longer special summon any more monsters from my extra deck at this point. I can't summon him. I can't summon him. Even if I had the capacity to, if I had the monsters that were linking me or summoning me, I could not summon them because of the ruling of the game that has occurred. So what I want to show you now is how this is a perfect example of how we get around this and why the link summoning monsters dynamic or the situation is so much more integral to the Yu-Gi-Oh concept here. So now, what you can see here is that I'm able to special summon this XYZ monster because the arrow from the link monster is now pointing down to this monster. If I did not have this link monster here, if I had a fusion summon or a synchro or something else that did not have an arrow, if you notice up here it's a lot easier to see, an arrow that is pointing down, then I would not be able to special summon this XYZ. And so that's where you kind of see this dynamic playing out. So extra deck zones really became a lot more useful up here, but this whole thing was added. This wasn't even a zone before. These two ideas here weren't even zones before this game started. So there's again your decks, your monster zones here. You've got your main deck, your graveyard, your spell and trap cards, your field spell card zone over here. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. I'm always to help out to anybody who's trying to figure out the Yu-Gi-Oh game. Always glad to teach. Hope you guys have an epic day and take care.